Hey ladies and gents, today I'm going to be showing you how to make the see-through face mask that is durable and washable. The problem that you'll find that makes these necessary is that the masks that are being made now cover your entire face, which is great for protecting from the virus and protecting yourself from everyone else and then from you. However, if you are one of the 600,000 people that are deaf in America, that has made it very difficult for them to read the lips and understand the rest of the community. There's a lot of people that work with the deaf community, everything from the audiologists to the local teachers in our school that are going to be taking students into the new year who are not going to be able to understand them. So these people have a very important decision to make. Do they protect themselves or do they make it easier for their highest risk kids and patients to be able to understand and communicate with them? So if you'll notice, these masks go completely over the nose, under the chin in a fitted way, and you can see how they can talk and the lips, they can read them. I'm going to show you a really quick tutorial on how to make them. These are more difficult to make, and you can make them with the straps like this or with the traditional elastic. The design we're going to be using for the elastic is going to be like this, so it's not going to be around the ears. Like this one, it's going to go where it comes around their head and around their head again, for a better fit that's more comfortable during the day than the ones that are going around the ears. So first things first, I'm going to cut out the pattern. I have a printable pattern that you can download below, and we're going to get started. You're going to need 2 of those. So simply lay out the pattern, print it out, cut it out, put it on the fabric, trace out 2 is all you're going to need. If you're going to be making the ones using the elastic, and this is going to be your basic elastic 1/4 inch, make 2 different ones that are 20 inches long. I'm going to need 2 of those. And if you're choosing to make the ties, I'm going to need a piece of material that is anywhere between 1.5 to 2.5 inches wide by about 40 to 42 inches long, and you're going to need 2 of those. The next piece that you're going to need is 2 sets of fabric. Ignore how wrinkly my fabric is. We washed it. You're going to need your template. So on this particular template, I used one of those really thin cutting boards that you can buy at Target, and I cut it out because we were making so many. We needed something that was a little bit more durable than paper. Cardboard will actually work as well too. And you're just going to cut this out. And again, there is a template below the video, in both the YouTube video and this Medium article, so that you can just download it yourself, because there's no way I can give you the measurements and have this cut out with all the curves. So the other one you're going to be doing is this curve right here. You need the hole right in the center, and then that is going to be the part where you're actually sewing it to, but there's going to be a little mark here where I'm going to need you to cut it so we can make that curve. So that's one. And I'm going to use, normally I've been using 2 of the exact same pieces of fabric, but so that you can understand which side goes where and which way is facing which direction, just to make it a little bit less confusing, I'm going to make 2 different colors here so you can see the difference. One of the things, the aspects, there's another video on how these are made, and they use a piece of plastic used to protect paper. It's not washable, and that becomes a problem. So the way that we're going to do this is also with some velcro and some acetate, so that you can take the 2 different separate pieces out, wash the fabric so it lasts a while, and then clean out. So once you have these 2, we're going to cut those out. I'm going to get the good scissors out. So some of the equipment that you're going to need, so you can see right here, I've got a cutting mat. That cutting mat enables me to use what's called a rotary cutter. Since we are making so many of these, it's much easier for us to cut 10 layers of fabric at once with a rotary cutter and our more durable plastic stencil, if you will. And another one that you're going to need is a really good pair of fabric scissors. If you are doing any kind of sewing, you probably have a pair of scissors like this. You're also going to need, for when we get to the sticky Velcro, a pair of scissors that you don't mind getting messed up, because the stickiness from the Velcro backing is going to get everywhere and mess up your scissors, and you're going to have to get some Gooby Gone for it. You're obviously going to need a sewing machine. This doesn't have to be a fancy one, it just needs to be one basic sewing machine. You're going to need an iron, and an ironing board will help you get this fabric really nice and flat before you sew all the pieces together so that it looks nicer and a lot cleaner. And then for your actual materials that make the mask, you're going to need Velcro that sticks, because we need something to stick on the acetate. And then you're going to need some Velcro that will sew directly on. I tried using my first test making this particular pattern using the kind that irons on, thinking that would be better. It was terrible. It added about 2 hours to the time, significantly more expensive and far less effective. Another tool that's going to make your life significantly easier is, if you'll notice when I put this fabric together, I will not be using pins. I'm going to be using little clips that remind me of the clothespins Grandma used to hang clothes out with. They cost a little bit more, but they last a lot longer. They don't end up sticking you in the foot in the middle of the night when your daughter leaves them all over the carpet, and they hold significantly better. Make sure you cut here that you leave some fabric out in the center so that you have some room to sew. So it's a little hard to see up close. Oops. I'm going to cut these little corners down to where my outline was, leaving about 1/2 inch extra. Doesn't need to be perfect on the shape, it just needs to make sure that when you flip this over, you have some room to sew. All right. So the one thing that you're going to want to do is just throw a quick iron it out. Make sure you keep your flaps down. This is going to make it significantly easier to work with. I used to not iron a lot of my stuff. I still don't, but these will benefit from an iron. The second one that we're going to need is some Velcro, and the one that I found that works best is going to be the sew-on one. You can find this at Michael's, Joann's, Walmart. I have a little bit more difficulty finding it, especially during COVID. The nice part about this sew-on kind is you can cut it with your scissors. So there's going to be 2 different kinds of Velcro in here that obviously they work together. You're going to have the kind that's crunchy that has the little loops, and then the softer ones that the loops go into. What I like to do here is cut one out, and I'm only going to use one on one piece and one kind on the other, and I'm just going to cut these little pieces to fit. So right here, because it's been very difficult during COVID to find the pieces I need, you'll see that this one is about 1/2 inch, maybe 3/4 inch, because I couldn't find the 1/4 inch anymore. So on these, I'm just cutting a strip because I need it to be about 1/4 inch. Anything more is too thick for the mask. The reason we're using Velcro as opposed to the other YouTube design that's going around where we're just stitching directly into that plastic piece, and that goes back to, you cannot wash something made out of cheap, thin plastic and fabric. That just does not work well. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to measure, kind of based off of this, some pieces. They do not need to go all the way across. They just need to make sure that you can firmly hold the acetate we're going to put in. So about 2 to 3 inches, and then one inch for each other side. And we're going to do the exact same thing here, but this one is going to be the Velcro side with the little loops. Nice and crunchy sounding. And then we're going to do the same thing with the acetate and the sticky Velcro. One side is going to get the kind with the loops, and the other side is going to get the kind that's softer. And this way we're going to size it up and make sure it's on the right size so that each one of these fits in and secures. Ooh, look at that, it hangs on. I'm wasting a little, I don't normally do that, but for the purpose of this, I'm going to waste a little. Now, these are the clips I was talking about. These are awesome. Instead of needles, so that everything lines up, and we're going to keep the iron nearby. So these are the tops of the fabric. We are going to want the Velcro on the back of the fabric, and we're going to take down to the line that we made and just follow up on that crease. This is where you might want to get an iron. Do not iron your fingertips, it hurts. So kind of be careful there. That iron is going to help hold that line so that you can carefully put the Velcro there. Take these clips, open them up, and just put them right up on here. The big one I found is better when you do 3, just so it doesn't mess up. So by doing it in this order, I'm going to save myself a step. The original ones, when I was just creating the design, I sewed the edge first and then came back and ironed on the Velcro. That was not effective. The iron-on one just was not staying. The second time I tried this one, and again I sewed it and then I sewed it again. One, I get 2 different lines, so it's a little messier, and it took me twice as long. So to save yourself some time, because these do take longer to make, just pin it, measure and pin first. What is that saying? Measure twice, cut once. All right, so this one is all ready to go. And because I've been making like 100 at a time, what I've been doing is I've been preparing each one of these in large quantities, kind of creating an assembly line. So however many you're making, I recommend you make 1 first so that you are comfortable with the design. You're comfortable with how the different sewing pieces work and what you have to do. If you need to make any adjustments based on the materials you have, the equipment you have, do that on the first one. The first one's going to take you a long time, I am not going to lie, but I feel like that's every sewing project. That's even pancakes. I can't make pancakes without making one bad first. But after that, decide on how many you need to make and cut out all the materials at the same time. You'll find that you use tremendously less materials, but it'll also go a lot faster, just like Model T making his cars in the assembly line. So remember, we're only using the exact same Velcro, so make sure this one is all the crunchy kind with the loops. The exact same process. Make sure the Velcro is on the inside, the bad side of the fabric, so that it can stick to the acetate that's going to be in the middle. You can see I made a little mistake here. We're just going to patch that up, sew it a little tighter. There we go. For the fabric, everybody likes to ask which fabric. They've said a satin weave or a silk actually is going to protect better. However, the ones that are going to breathe the best and give you the most protection are going to be these cotton materials, so 100% cotton. Do not get the polyester ones just because they look prettier. Stick with cotton. And the other aspect with this particular design is going to be the acetate. The way the acetate is cut is going to ensure that you actually have complete protection from left to right and top to bottom. So now these 2 are done. We're going to go ahead and sew those and then work with the acetate. So on this particular sewing machine, so you kind of know what I'm personally working with, I'm using a Brother machine, the Project Runway edition. So basically a very basic machine, nothing fancy. Now, every machine is going to be different. I have right on the center the average thread, so I'm using the average thread tension settings. As far as the stitch use, I am using a very basic in and out regular stitch. On this particular one, I am actually using the one that's the regular stitch, moved to the left side so that I can get the closest fit. If you use the one to the middle, that one is just fine too and works. For me particularly, I have not been focusing on beautiful mask. It's been very difficult to find the right kind of fabric. I don't care about the thread color, I don't care about the fabric color. I am making sure that I use a good, strong, durable thread, and that's about the extent. So when I say everything is average here, that anyone with the lowest level sewing machine possible, besides the child one that does not have the 2 thread system, you're going to be good. So when I get started here, I tend to personally start on the long side so I can get a good thread. And the first thing you're going to do before I get started, I'll let you know, is I'm going to start sewing forward. I'm going to use the reverse button and go back and then come back forward so my thread stays more in place. So I'm going to come back here. At this point, I'm going to take my first one of my clips off. I'm going to hold that down. I'm going to get the needle actually into the Velcro before I reverse. I'm not particularly worried about what it looks like on the other side. I am just worried about protection and making sure everything connects well. When you're sewing, make sure that you do have the fabric and the Velcro in your stitch. The corners will be difficult for you. So at this point, I'm going to lift up with the needle inside the thread and twist it so that I can get a nice 45-degree angle on it. I'm going to reverse a little bit here so I've got good sewing. Nice and strong, not going to come undone. So right now my my Velcro has come up over. With the needle in, I'm going to lift it up and just get it back in place. Don't worry about little mistakes, they can be fixed. Same thing, lift up again with the needle still involved at a 45-degree angle. Kind of double stitch a little bit. And this is where it takes a long time. It's a lot more difficult to just get straight. Go. At the end, I'm going to do a double stitch 2, pull my fabric and my thread out. I'm going to go ahead and cut it off. So if you'll notice here, I did not do the details yet. I did the Velcro first. In making your life significantly easier, this is something that you're going to want to do too. I call it string management. When you're sewing, there's all the little strings from the start and the finish. If you're making a bunch, I recommend that you don't worry about the strings and let a kid or a helper who doesn't sew help you out on this. I'm actually going to take this back and iron it before I am done, before I do the rest, so it's nice and crisp. If you do the little darts here first, it's going to be much more difficult to sew the Velcro, much more difficult. So sew the Velcro first. We're going to go ahead into our second piece for our backing. And remember, make sure this has all the same type of Velcro material. Same exact process. I'm going to clip the strings in this last piece, and I'm just going to iron this really quick, and I'm going to iron it with the Velcro side down so you do not melt the plastic. All right, the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and sew the darts. The darts are where you see these point pieces on each side. So this one is going to go under the chin so it actually stays on their face down below. And this one's going to hold it over their nose. So just like any other sewing project, we're going to put the like faces. So see the pattern, wherever it's printed, we're going to fold that directly over, and we're going to be sewing on the opposite side of the fabric. You don't need to get the Velcro, just make sure you get it really tight, just a 1/8 space away from the edging, so you can keep the most of the fabric. This is going to be the most forgiving space. If you make little mistakes, just go back over and fix them. Don't worry if these are not absolutely perfect. If you have any questions, you'll leave it in the comment section below, either on the YouTube video or in the Medium article here, and I will ensure that either myself or my daughter answers those. All right, so now we have all of our darts on one piece in place. We're going to do the exact same thing on the other piece. So that is the one nice thing about this, is you're constantly treating each side identical. See, that's going to get like a nice little crease right there. We're sewing it. When we flip it over to the good side, we're going to get the nice little attractive crease that's very durable too and going to hold up in multiple washings. Make sure you stay definitely on the negative side, or the two right sides together, sewing on the outside. Same thing on this piece. When you flip it back over, you'll see we've got a nice crisp line where the fabric is. We're going to put the acetate and nice dart lines. So now these two pieces are completely done as far as getting the opening done and getting the darts done. So now what we're going to do is we're going to line up your chin is the easiest way to do this. Remember, we're going to put the plus sides together. We want the right sides together. We want to be sewing on the outside still. So the chin is a nice part to line it up, and you're going to be lining up the two seams. Get your handy dandy little clippies. I don't know the right name, we're just going to go with clippies. And we are going to be lining up the darts on the other side. Since this is kind of the center, no matter how much you've messed up the rest of the design, these are the parts that actually need to line up to make the best fit. So that when we turn it back inside out and put the acetate in there, it lines up perfectly. So after you do those, then you'll see this little crook where the fabric changes direction. Go ahead and pin it there. And now that that's lined up, same thing on this side. And I'm going to show you, we're going to do one more step on that, but we're going to make sure everything else is put together. I like to put one in kind of this little elbow as well. And then same thing over here. We're going to be taking that elbow, lining it up, putting one right here, stretching out the fabric so it's nice and flat and together, putting one on the opposite side and another one in the elbow. And I'm hoping this doesn't sound too complicated, but when you get it done right the first time, it works really well. So now I'm actually going to remove these carefully while holding onto the fabric. And I'm going to take right at that elbow and fold it in, I don't want to say in half, but fold it over so that it lines up and it's nice and square. Put your little clip back on until you get to the other side. You don't have to iron it, maybe just press over it with your finger a little bit to kind of get a crease. Flip it over. And I'm sure there's some seamstresses out there who can do this aspect better. I was just focused purely on design and making sure that we could get our audiologists and our teachers, our speech pathologists, get them the pieces that they need so they could be safe and so that they could communicate with their patients. So there we go. So now we have the edging, and this will allow us to have a nice seam for when we put either the cords where they can tie or we can put the elastic. So now I'm going to come over here. We're going to do the exact same thing. Just make sure you get this portion flat. I know it gets difficult working with something with this many curves. Right at that corner seam of the pattern. Definitely flip it. If you think you're going to flip it without clippies and it's going to be like that person who always tries to flip the egg and breaks the yolk, just go ahead and clip it. Make it nice and smooth. There we go. And so now we are all clipped up, and we're going to be doing very similar to what we did on the inside. We're going to be just stitching close to the edge, about 1/8 inch, all the way around this edge before we flip it over. Take the one clip off the edge. I'm actually going to move my needle here into a center. Since I don't want it on the far left, I want it much tighter, and sew away. We're not leaving any outside this. I don't know if you can see. We're just making sure that we keep it tight, and I'm just lining it up with the other side of the foot. All right, if you noticed, I did not go all the way. I only did the bottom side there. clip my strings everywhere, and then I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna do the exact same thing on the top side. Do not want to close it because we need to open it back up. Alrighty then, got a clip. And now we are looking at a nearly completed mask. So the thing that we're gonna need to do now is you can do it from the sides, but the inside is simpler. Just turn it inside out. And then we are actually gonna go back to the iron again really quick, just to make sure that I can kind of give it a crease right here to make it, again, easier to sew and easier to cut the acetate and put it in there. Using the edge of your ironing board is going to be much more convenient here, and it's going to be easier to work with in these last steps, but just kind of generally ironing. You can see it's not perfect where the crease is. I just need something to make it easier to work with. The nose spot's a lot easier. The first one took me 4 hours with the newer design, and without the sewing Velcro, I got it down to 2, and it looks like we're gonna have it down to about 1 hour with recording, so you'll get faster. All right, so right now you'll see that I have this and I have the pieces opening, right? So this is where you have a choice to make. You can either take the long strips of fabric, and what I've been doing here is simply kind of folding them in half. Because I've been making so many, when you are working with a lot of the medical providers, they're going to be using this mask over and over again with potential actual COVID patients, not just students who are maybe or maybe not sick. These are really helpful on having the sewing ones. There's actually a little tool that makes your life easier. I will include that in the link below. But I've just been doing it this way, folding it over and sewing it just like this on the edge, really quick, zipping down the entire thing. And then when you're done, fold it in half, cut it in two, do the same for the other piece, and you'll have the 4 straps needed to make these. When you're doing that, you're just taking the cord that you've just sewn in half. You're gonna take this piece, put it inside, right here. You're gonna take the other one, put it on the top in the same way, and stitch directly down, just like you did on the other mask, making sure to go back and forth a few times on this piece of fabric, since that is where all the pressure point will be. Do go back about 3 or 4 times. So that's gonna be on the ones with the ties. So I'm not gonna show that one because I feel like that one's pretty self-explanatory, and you can see lots of different examples of these on the internet with the rest of the different kinds of masks, and you just need 4. The ones that are on the chin side, so the bottom with the 2 darts, they don't have to be as long because they're going around the neck. Make the ones on the top just a little bit longer when you cut them in half to give more space to go around the head. The one I will be showing, because my particular design has been different than the rest of the ones on the internet, is these with the Velcro. These make it so much easier to take on and off, and you can sit there and you can put them around the headpiece and make it nice and flexible. So for this Velcro one, you're gonna need 2 pieces, and if you'll remember, each one was about 24 inches long. Do test it around your own head or whoever's head you might be wearing it. If they're a larger man, they're gonna need a little bit more space versus putting this on a child. These masks will fit children from about 7 years old up. This one I'm gonna take and make sure the Velcro, I'm gonna put it in the same spot I showed you here. I'm gonna go ahead and clip it. So I've put one side of the Velcro here on the chin. I'm gonna make sure the Velcro is straight, bring it back around, and put it on this side. Same lower side. Way too big. 24 inches. It'd be more like 12 inches each. Oops, direction change. Okay, I got a little bit thrown off because my other mask that I made this design for, they had the 24 inches, but it used one loop. These are actually going to be one 24 piece cut into half, so 12 inches each. So this one is on the chin. I'm going to go ahead and clip it here. Clip. Don't want to forget which one goes to which. And then just like if it were ties, we're just going to sew straight across the edge. Take my clip off here, and same thing, we're going to go back and forth over it. Then straight. Make sure that's got a good path in there. So that side's done. We can get the strings off later, nice and tight. Do the exact same thing on the other side. Make sure don't get the elastic under there where it doesn't belong. Okay, so now we have the basis of the mask done. You can test it. There we go, 12 inches works much better, and you start to see nice tight lines around the nose, good around the chin. All right, so the only last piece that we are missing is the acetate. What we're going to be ordering is there's lots of different brands. You can get that at any one of the craft stores, but I'm looking for clear acetate. Now in thickness, I've done several different ones. This particular one is 0.005. I've done 0.10. I've also done 0.007. I'm probably thinking that 0.05 though is going to be the lowest level that you're going to be looking for. So the one I have pre-cut right now is a 0.007. We actually had these pre-cut for the shields we're creating, which is another good option if you do not have to be in close proximity. So I will have a template for this that we're going to make for everyone who is down below. It'll be on the template in the PDF. But we're basically going to cut something that fits from the edge of that dart to the edge of that dart. We want it to go edge to edge. This is also going to give the mask some of its form and shape. Okay, let's stick to all those strings. There we go. And then what we're going to look for is to kind of roll it around, and again, I'm going to have it in the template. I've just been eyeballing it so far, but we'll make a formal one. To go all the way across in a rounded manner. And then the shapes on the edges are going to be kind of rolled in a gradual circle. Again, I will have this in the template down below the video and in the Medium article. It does not have to be absolutely perfect. Again, if you make mistakes, do not panic. Try it out first. Now, before you add Velcro, oh my goodness, measure twice, cut once. You see all this Velcro sticking together. Go ahead and slide this in from side to side, and this is actually how we're going to see where we need to put the Velcro on. I don't want to put that on the template because depending on where you put your Velcro and stitched it in, it's going to be a little different. So there we go. So now you can start to see how it starts to form. Perfect, right? So we're going to push that right up against the edge, and then we're going to start working with the sticky Velcro. Now this Velcro is really easy to find in lots of different places. It is literally just the sticky back, so you're going to find it's a lot easier to work with. So I'm going to cut, I need 2 of the crunchy, 2 of the soft. I'm going to go ahead and use that size. This is going to be where you want to use Your scissors that are kind of like your garbage scissors, do not use your good scissors on this. Sticky will get everywhere and you will never be able to use them. In fact, these are the free scissors I get at Harbor Freight every time I go in, just for projects like this. These are going to be about 2 inches on the long side to 3 inches. Make them flexible. The side ones are almost always 1 inch. So what I'm going to want to do here though is flip it over and see which Velcro is on the fabric, and I want to pick the opposite on the sticky. So for this one, I've got the crunchy loop Velcro. I'm going to go ahead and get my soft Velcro, take the sticker off carefully. Watch this. I'm going to go ahead and put it directly on the other piece of Velcro. Make it sure everything's lined up on the edge and just flip it over. And that way I know that the Velcro is in the right exact spot it needs to be. I like doing the short edges first, pick one and go from there. So if I flip this one over, it's got the soft, so I'm going to be picking the loopy sticky one. I'm sure there are better, more appropriate names for Velcro. I don't know them and I don't care. Do the exact same thing. So this part is actually one of the easiest ones after you figure out how to do it. Okay, I've got the soft Velcro here. We're going to go with the looped Velcro and do the exact same thing. I find the shorter ones are just easier to do first. Almost done here, isn't it exciting? Yep, pretty much 1 hour from start to finish. And that's after I've gotten this process down pretty well. All right, so now we're on the longer ones. I'm gonna do the ones down here on the chin first. Since it has 2 darts, I find it easier to do. I probably could have stretched this out a little bit more. That's okay. So this one has the looped ones. We're going to put the soft one on it. Again, I'm just going to clip it right here. And this one is going to be a little bit more particular. I'm going to pull up the fabric, and my goal here is to flip it almost at the edge of the acetate. That way we get it right under the chin. Same thing on the back here. Got the soft one. I'm going to get the crunchy one, put it on the existing piece, and I'm going to be careful. I don't want to line it up with the fabric. I want to line it up right at the bottom on exactly the same side as the flip side. So when I pull this out, I've got space for my chin or whoever's chin you're making it for. Same thing on here. Got crunchy, I need soft. Put this right here. And again, same thing. I do not want it to go further down. I want this to line up at the edge of the acetate so my nose can fit in. Crunchy to soft. That's our last piece. Oh, goodness, here. And line it up right on the opposite way. Pull the fabric out. So I may have put the sides a little too close, but again, that's not a big deal. But now you'll see I can actually take this apart, pull the plastic completely out, completely wash it, and throw the fabric portion in the washing machine. Delicate, cold water, especially if you have the elastic. You can do hot water for the fabric ones. So I've got my chin there. Now I'm just gonna take this one around. I'll pull my big, beautiful blue hair up. It's a hot mess. And then we're gonna put the nose piece over. And you have a mask that you can now see when somebody talks. Now, the first thing that I always get, can't hear me when I'm doing that, is you are gonna have some fogging issue, and that's gonna be with all of them. There are some tricks to that, especially if you look up on the divers and their glasses, I believe putting a little oil on it. And also when you're actually using it, making sure to breathe in deeply. But as far as making sure that you're protected, you now have an easy to use one with elastic, or you can use the ties like we've done one here with the Harry Potter. But both of these are going to offer you full protection, and just tie them up and your students can see you, or your patients can see you, even if they are deaf and needing to read lips. If you have any questions, remember, please ask them on the YouTube. comment section, the Medium article comment section, and my daughter and I, who have both been making these like crazy since my friend Stacy said that a friend of hers that was an audiologist needed them. We've been doing several. We know a lot of what you're doing, and if you have comments about how to make this a better product, a better piece for our frontline workers, I would really appreciate those in the comments too. All right, thanks, bye.